Welcome to the Unshakeable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Mike D, who's come to share on the topic of the God idea for up to 40 minutes, after which we'll open up for the Q&A portion of the meeting. Mike, it's over to you.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I'm a recovered heroin addict, and my name is Mike D. Sobriety date March 9th, 1987. One of my spiritual guides and teachers told me I need to put that out there because $1 to a donut, we have somebody on this meeting that's a doubting Thomas. You do not believe that you can stop and stay stopped. You do not believe that there's a new life, a recreation from the old self that is waiting for you. If you just become willing to do some things. So I'm here this evening with you guys across the pond and with anybody that might be from over here where I'm at to bear witness to the fact that there is a recreation to your life that can take place. I like to say, and it's Mike D stuff, that when I come to talk to the real alcoholic and the real addict. Because those other two guys, they don't have to do what the real alcoholic and the real addict must do in order to first and primarily stay stopped and then move along a path, a journey of having their life recreated through God by them. They don't have to do it. All the other things that we do in the fellowships is enough for them to align up themselves with the fellowship and not have to seek a spiritual answer and a spiritual partnership and love affair with the God of their own understanding. So, if you're privy to the fact of having done some work and you've broached upon step 2, and hopefully that individual that is leading you or has led you on your journey had ample facts about themselves that it allowed them to be instrumental in you getting facts about yourself. Welcome to the club in the club. I want to read a couple things before I get started. In the 12 and 12, I'd like to read for you from page 29, step 2, because a lot of us, including myself in my early years of recovery, I got trapped. Even though I didn't use again, I got trapped in a mindset. And thank God I was able to find stability and a way out of that trap. 29 in the 12 and 12 reads, as material success founded upon no more than these ordinary attributes began to come to us, we felt we were winning at the game of life. Keep in mind who I'm talking to. I'm talking to the real alcoholic and the real addict. This was exhilarating, and it made us happy. Why should we be bothered with theological abstract extractions and religious duties or with the state of our souls here or hereafter. The here and now was good enough for us. The will to win would carry us through. But then alcohol or drugs began to have its way with us. Finally, when all our scorecards read 0, and we saw that one more strike was put us out of the game forever, we had to look for our lost faith. It was in AA or CA that we discovered it, and so can you. We have a man or a woman on this meeting this afternoon or this evening that's struggling. You're struggling because you're caught up in the idea of what the idea is about. You want to analyze, you want to question, you want to surmise that wherever you are, if you're there at all with the God idea, what is it truly about? Why do we do it? Why do we need it? Some of us on this meeting, you're intellectual, you've attended college, you have degrees, you have a good job, you make good money, on and on and on. Why do I need God? Why is it that a higher power must be a constant in my life? Why is it that I must align myself and create a love affair with a God of my own understanding? Why is it they push me to see what religious people are about, make use of what they have to offer? Why is it? Why can't I just rest on my laurels? Why is it my self-sufficiency does not suffice? It's because someone on this meeting, you've crossed a line. You've crossed a line that way back somewhere in your life, based on the limited power that you had and you have, you will never be able to muster up self-sufficiency in creating the life that you desire for yourself. You've lost that privilege. You've lost power, choice, and control. There is no other house on the block for you. There is no other path for you to travel. And in your consistency to seek other ways that will suffice, you've damn near drove yourself insane because of ego. Because of ego. Phrase in recovery that's aligned with it, edging God out. Because all the ducks have aligned themselves outside of you to yell out, I'm okay. I got the family back. I got the job where I make a couple of ducats, that's okay. Got a pretty good running hoopty outside that gets me from A to B. Don't give me that much trouble. The old lady or the old man or the wife or the husband, we got a pretty decent relationship going on. Why do I need God? Why do I need what this program stresses for me to acquire, cultivate, and create a personal relationship with? Why is it that the first step is the only step that talks about drugs and or alcohol, and all the rest of them, all 11 of them, talk about God? Why is it? Why can't I rest on what I think I know? Because what I know has brought me to the rooms of recovery, where substantiated facts have been laid down as a result of our textbook, compounded with the results of our experience. Have you ever been able to sustain and maintain a life of quality on your own? If you have, God bless you. Maybe you don't need to be here. Maybe you in that category, one of those other two categories of being the moderate user or the moderate drinker or the hard alcoholic or the hard addict. They don't really need to do what those of us that are in the club needs to do. They can either take it or leave it alone in some instances. And then for a sufficient reason, they came to hang out with us. The judge sending them to the 12-step fellowships was enough for them. The wife saying, don't bring your ass back here until you do something and some change is created, was enough for them to create change in their life. Can you do that? Can you alter your life from the state that it's in now, this precise moment, to a life that's filled with happiness, joy, peace, love, understanding, humility, on a consistent basis? I can't. That's why I'm still here 38 years later with 39 years and a month or so. That's why I'm still here. Because the pages in the big book that can help define my unmanageability at certain times because of where my disease centers jumps out at me. Page 18, the lives that I touch. And on a certain level, I can still create havoc, even though I've gotten better at it by the grace of God. The 9 bedevilments on page 52, any one of them at any certain time when I'm not centered and I'm not anchored and holding on to and walking with the God of my own understanding, can raise its head and take me out in the twinkling of an eye, in an instant. And then on page 151, the hideous 4 horsemen, terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. Are they still a part of your life, Mike, at a certain time? At certain times. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Don't be putting me on no spiritual pedestal. Don't be making me no spiritual giant. I'm a dope fiend, just like somebody else in this meeting and somebody else that's a real alcoholic. I'm a real one. I'm a mad dog. Thank God I found the solution as mapped out in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And as a result of finding that solution, as a result of diagnosing myself in step way, I've found a way out. And I like it. I've liked it from way back in 1989 when I was first introduced to it as a result of taking my first step, my first walk through the 12 steps. And God met me. He met me and he smashed the delusion that you dying a dope fiend, Mike. You dying with a spike in your arm or a spike in your neck or a spike in your finger or in your foot. You dying like your brother. You might buy into the idea that you can take it or leave it alone, and you will for a minute, but haven't you for 20-something years always gotten back to heroin? Or had heroin always got back to you and took you with it, whether you wanted to go or not? And the answer was yes. And as a result of what we do in the nucleus, in the rooms of recovery, I began to get an anchor in some facts about myself, not about my neighbor, not about being judgmental of my sponsor, not finding fault with the meeting, some facts about myself. And I got set free. So the question is, do you really want to be free? The question is, do you really know what's wrong with you? The question is, are you willing to ask God to help you abandon what you think you know in order for you to have an open mind and a new experience? Are you willing? That's all it takes. Have you had enough of you? Some of you haven't on this meeting of what? 80 people? Was that 80, 90? My God. Some of y'all ain't tired yet, man. You're still fighting. Because you're all that in a bag of chips. You got a sponsor, but your sponsor can't really tell you nothing. You act like you're listening, but you ain't listening. You act like you're taking directions, but you ain't really taking directions. You doing shit the way you want to do it. You're tweaking what they give you to do, and you're doing it according to your timetable. You're not doing what the book directs us to do precisely. Clear-cut, further on, clear-cut directions are given. You're not doing it. Then you wonder what's wrong with you. Be cool, Mike, with your language. Be cool. You wonder what's wrong with you. You wonder why you're suffering. You wonder why they don't act right. You wonder why you can't find a loving, tolerant understanding of your children or of your mate or of the workplace. Why is that not happening? It's real simple, very clear. For me, I don't know about you. Half measures avail us nothing. When I saw, see, you got to have an experience. When I saw God work in my first set of amends back in 1989, when I saw him work, when I worked in, there were 2 lions' dens that I had to walk into. Dope dealers, gangsters that I owed money to. And in that first piece of work at the beginning, when it was mapped out to me what the 12-step journey would be about, I said, oh, when Alton got to step 8 and 9 and told me what they were about, I said, oh, hold it, man. I'm not, no. No. They gonna kill me. Or they're gonna maim me and hurt me for life. They don't play coming out that little country called Harlem, New York. They don't play. I'm not going back there, man. You done lost your mind, and this book don't make no sense now. And I'm not doing it. And in his kind, loving, and understanding way, he said to me, don't worry about it. He said, we're going to start this journey through the 12 steps. And by the time you get to step 8, we'll see if you're still unwilling. And by the time I got to step 8 and I made that list, and Jimmy and Joe Bub and Frog and those crews that I owed money to ended up on that list, I put them down. And there was still a twinge of uncertainty and reluctance to want to face them. And like the passage I just read, I was all the way on the other side of the country. So, and they didn't know where I was. I could have stayed safe and protected, so I thought. But by the time I got to that 8th step, I knew that no matter where I went, who I hung out with, what I did, there I was. And the freedom and the peace and the knowingness that God had begun a recreation process in my life hit me smack in the face. And the question was posed to me, Mike, what are you doing here? Do you want total freedom? Or do you just want mediocre? Do you want a wishy-washy way of life? Or do you really want the blessings that are in store for you? Because they told me that little church I grew up in the first 10 years of my life, directed and governed and guided by a mother, a grandmother, and a godmother, they told me that. They said, he got a whole bunch of stuff just waiting for you. Do you want it? They said, there's a way you need to gravitate towards, buy into, and live to be right-sized, Mike. Do you want it? They told me that the first 10 years of my life. Ain't nothing changed. We do the same thing in the rooms of recovery. Just a different path. That first set of amends hooked me the same way heroin did. I walked into that hallway where Joe Bub and Mickey Collins was hanging out that afternoon. And they said, oh man, look who's here. And I had grew up with both of them, but they gravitated into making money. I gravitated into drug addiction. Because I grew up with them and knew them didn't make a difference. They said, there you are. Where's my money? And I began to tell them about the process of recovery that I had been opened up to. Somebody in the rooms that's got a sponsor, that sponsor is going to tell you there's certain amends you cannot make or don't make them. Bullshit. Every single amends that you have can be made. If they can't be made face to face, there's still a way to make them. Total consummation of the 12 steps. Joe Frog was my running buddy. He grew up on the block next to me, 111th Street. I grew up on 112th Street. He would swing through the block on our way. We were in high school together. And he'd swing through, pick me up, and we began sniffing heroin together. And then he made a decision to put it down, never picked it up again. Began to make fast money. He said, fish. They used to call me fish. They didn't know a dolphin ain't no fish. A dolphin is a mammal. It's a mammal. He said, fish. Excuse my language, ladies. Where the fuck you been, man? You owe us money. I said, yeah, well, I've been living in Los Angeles now for a number of years. He said, we know you went somewhere. We're not really concerned with that. We're concerned with that bulk of money that you owe us. And I began to tell them about what had happened as a result of being in Los Angeles and the couple of years that I ran, not quite as hard as I did in New York, but how I began to run in Los Angeles, and then eventually went into what I didn't know was my last treatment program. And I began to hear that there was a way out. And that, no, I'm not dead. Because he said, we thought you were dead. I said, no, I'm very much alive. And I'm here to make amends for the harm that I've caused you. And their mouths open. And they looked at me in astonishment because they knew the man that I had been before that. They knew my upbringing on 112th Street. They knew my running on the avenue. They knew the ups and downs that had catapulted my life. And they looked at me in amazement that I was even standing there. This is only one amends that was like that. I had two sets of dope dealers that I had to make amends to. The end result of that was that they did no harm to me whatsoever. The result of that was that I was able to make a full, proper, formal amends to them and work out a plan for me to pay them back their money. They didn't hurt a hair on my body. When I left that hallway, we hugged. And they said, Fish, I'm glad to see something's happened with your life. That's remarkable. Keep doing what you're doing. God danced in between the raindrops. He showed me he was real. He showed me that the idea I had about my life was not coupled with the idea that needed to be about God and the power that God had to do for me what I could not do for myself. Somebody, I see you laying in bed, in the hospital bed. A couple years ago, no more than a year and a half, 2 years ago, I laid in a bed too. Never thought I'd walk again. I've had 5 surgeries, 2 on each hip and a knee replaced. Never thought I'd walk again. I'm talking to you about the God idea and where you're at with the God idea in your life in this moment, not yesteryear, not tomorrow, in this moment. What's your fixed ideas about God? Spirituality and talking to God was implanted in my life those first 10 years of my life, even though I made a conscious decision to leave it alone. But the seeds were already planted. It was too late. And I laid in that hospital bed and the doctor said, you may not ever be able to walk again or walk right. This is recently. Today, I'm not running no marathons and I'm not skipping to Malou around the block or nothing like that. But I'm walking, I'm kicking. I might not be kicking high, but I'm kicking well enough to, if anything happens, I can kick you in your and keep it moving. I'm talking about the God idea. That while I laid in that bed, this is for you. This is for you in that bed. Talk to God about what's going on. Talk to God and ask him to reveal his plan for you in your life. And what is it that you need to do to get complete healing? You may not never be the way you were before, but I'm a testimony that your body can be healed. But it first starts with your mind. Where you at? What do you want for your life? Am I willing to abandon me and take on a whole new set of morals, philosophies, and way of living life that are foreign to me? And trust God that he will bring me through, no matter where you're at. Page 47 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous says, when therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. What conception of God do you bring to the 12-step rooms or the piece of work that you're in, if you're in a piece of work, and are you in a piece of work? Meaning a journey through the 12 steps. When you get to step 2, it's pertinent that you look at the idea of God that you bring with you, because we bring so much prejudice and negative antagonistic feelings about God that's not conducive with you turning your life and your will over to it in step 3. Thorough, entrenched idea that I bring to this piece of work. Why? Because do you want mediocre recovery or do you want wholehearted recovery? Do you want to get back everything that you've given away down through the years to whomever you've given it away to? Do you truly want it? And as a result of you self-diagnosing yourself in step 1, because of that devastation and that understanding that you have limited power, wherever you are in your recovery, are you willing to let that go and turn to God? God, please lay aside everything I think I know. That means with 6 months, 1 week, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 35 years. God, take what's been given to me up to this point that is not conducive with my personal relationship with you, and take it and implant some newness in my life. I need new, Father. I need to know you on another level. Yes, I'm willing to be still. Yes, I'm willing to shut the fuck up. Yes, I'm willing to listen. Teach me. And I go into remission. And I let God have his way with me. And I continue my journey through the 12 steps with him, with a willingness as a result of step 2 that I want to be a believer. I want to be a believer as a result of moving from a place of being willing to believe. It says, do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. Bunch of spiritual terms in here for you to take a look at and see if you have the willingness to believe what they tell you is true. to affect my first conscious relation with God as we understood him, as I understand him. I need to look at what is it that I bring to this recovery process where God is concerned. Because God and a spiritual way of life is the crux of this whole deal. If they didn't tell you, hopefully somebody told you. It ain't about the meetings. The meetings suffice in treating the allergy. The 12 steps suffice in treating the obsession, but the spiritual malady, the spiritual separation from God is the crux of what we suffer from. Something needs to happen with that. 1852, 151. And if it doesn't, I'm a dead man. And that don't mean physically dead. That means in the rooms, hanging out in meetings, crazy as a Betsy bug. At the start, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth. What? This beginning conception of God. How do I think about God that I bring with me to this recovery process? To affect our first conscious relation with God as we understood him. Afterward, we found ourselves accepting many things which had seemed entirely out of reach. That was growth. But if we wished to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So entertaining the God idea. I'm a fan of the original manuscript of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous because there's language in there that's clear cut. They watered it down for the poopies because they didn't want to run the poopies away. They wanted y'all to stay. We got some in this meeting of 80 people. You're just here hanging out, man. You really don't want what we have. So we use our own conception, however limited it was. So I look at that idea of God and ask myself, am I willing to hang out with a God like that? A punishing God, a God that pays favors, a God that's only in one part of the world, a God that favors only one religion. I could go on and on and on, a God of color, on and on. Will I really turn my life and my will over to the care of God in step 3 wholeheartedly? No. No, I wasn't. That exercise, the first time I did it, was so powerful. I had a God that was instilled in me from a very young age that was a punishing God. I had a God that was instilled in me from a very young age that if I didn't walk the straight and narrow, I was going to hell. Oh, there is a hell. I could go on and on and on, but for the sake of time, I'm not. You get the gist of what I'm talking about. Where are you at with the God idea? And then as a result of revamping your thinking where the problem centers, that you get to answer a question. Do you now believe or are you willing to believe? Phenomenal. Mind-freeing question. And what it does, it puts me in the arena of I can be willing to believe that he's not a punishing God. Despite what they tell me in religion. I can believe that I don't have to walk the straight and narrow. Nobody does. The Pope doesn't. Bishops don't. What makes you think you can? Very clear and unadulterated. I got free. And I got to create a conception of God that was conducive with the evolution and the movement that had to happen in my life, because I saw if God wasn't, there was no me. Minus 3 minutes, 3 seconds. Thank you guys for me being here. I love this stuff, man. I had no idea that as a result of abandoning myself to the 12-step process, that my life, the way it looks now, would be beyond anything I thought would ever be possible for a guy like me. I am in awe. I am in awe because he hasn't stopped working yet and doing in my life yet. I'm so excited about 2026, I don't know what to do. I could jump up and down and skip to my loo. And that's because of what he's done already in these 38 years. I told you, I entertained the idea that at 42, I was a dead man. My brother OD'd at 41. Ran twice as hard as Edward. I was dead. So many delusions and illusions he has smashed in my life. It's waiting for you. Do a piece of work. Do step 1 first. Get a competent spiritual guide. And when you get to step 2, as directed by your sponsor or your spiritual guide, take a look at the God idea. See where you're at with God. He's my best friend. That's my partner. That's my that's my road dog. That's my running buddy now. Like I had in the street, man. I had road dogs. I had crimies. Well, he ain't my crimey, but he's my road dog. Because he's in the good of everything that happens in my life. I don't do it perfectly, but my God, where I come from to where I am now, it's all due to the grace, the love, and the mercy of a God that loved me from my immediate creation coming out of my mother's womb. God bless each and every one of you. May he lay his hands on you. May you allow the recreation and recultivation of your life to happen. When it begins to happen, don't run. Don't hide. Pull into it. And let God have his way with you. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Do you want to come in?
Thanks, Danny. Hi guys, I'm Olivia. I'm an addict. Thank you so much, Mike. That was absolutely unreal. I loved what you said about step 2 and 3, you know, and all them experiences with God, and that kind of ties into my question actually. So I just want to ask, how do you differentiate your will from God's will? Because that's something I'm really struggling with at the minute. And I know I'm in a lot of self-reliance, but I'm seeking God's will and can't really see it or know what it is. So how do you differentiate when it's God or you?
My what I've pulled into in my recovery is my first thought. Because in step 3, I made a decision to turn my life and my will over to the care of God. So in asking him to take care of me, he's going to do that. And how does he do that? He speaks to me. Sometimes it's directly and sometimes it's through others. But the older I get in recovery, the more I come to rely on my first thought. It's like when I was in the street and I was hustling, I went from selling drugs to shoplifting. And I'd hit different stores and I'd be on the hunt for what store I was going to go into. And I'd get ready to go into a store and a voice would say, "Don't go in there. You've been in there twice this week, man. Don't go in. They waiting for you." And I didn't listen. And as a result of going in there, I'd wind up in a cell on Rikers Island. And my thought would be, I wish I had listened to that voice. That was the voice of the Holy Spirit directing and guiding me and taking care of me, even in my disease of being untreated. So what I've learned to do in recovery years ago, to listen for that direction, that first direction, and that first voice. And if I'm befuddled and confused as to what it is that what I'm to do? I got a couple people I go to and I talk to them about it before I make a move. And if it's not clear, I ask God to clarify it. And he does exactly that. A cultivation of the language between you and God must be formulated. So when you talk to him, he's going to talk back to you. And you'll begin to pull into that more. Why? Because you need to. You need to. Any life based on self-will can hardly be a success. Big Book says I must be convinced of that. So I can't listen to me anymore. I can't listen to what I presume to be the solution from where the problem came from. So I learned how to talk to God, and I learned how to listen for God talking to me. That's what's worked for me.
Thank you, Olivia, for your question, and thanks, Mike,
You
for a great.
one of those Johnson girls, ain't you, Olivia? Yeah, I see Angela bowing her, shaking her head. Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Next up, Wendy, do you want to come in?
Hi, I'm Wendy, a grateful recovered addict, and thank you so much for the meeting, and thank you for your share, Mike. You know, it really got me thinking about so many things in my recovery. And I was just wondering, during your, years of recovery, what difficulties do you experience, that you have to kind of like ask God to remove the most? You know, what are your repeat offenders, defects, things like that?
Oh, you really want to know? You really want me to get transparent, huh? One has been sex and women and believing they could fix me. I was raised by 3 women, my mother, my grandmother, and my godmother, all 3 spiritual women. But I got a fixed idea from them that implanted itself in my life as to the way women should be in my life. Because I got whatever I needed. They provided all my needs and my wants. They had a certain station in life. So my reliance upon women fixing me early in my recovery has been a mainstay. I've outgrown that, but it took a while. Another piece is finances.
Mm.
I grew up very poor. So at a very young age, I started hustling. I didn't start selling dope at first. I started shining shoes by the subway on Saturday mornings for 25 cents. Because by the time I came along, my brothers told me I was an accident. I'm the youngest of five brothers. And there's 9 years between me and my brother next to me. God bless their spirits. They're all gone. And they used to tell me I was an accident. Because by the time I came along, my father had left after my brother Edward. So I was raised by my mother, my grandmother, and my godmother. And in that household, I was limited on a number of things. I never knew I was poor, though. I just looked around me and I saw different ways that I could make money, and I began to gravitate towards that. The first one being a shoe shine boy on Saturday mornings by the subway for 25 cents. So what was instilled in me was financial success would fix me, make me better than. And I carried that into my recovery until God showed me that no matter how much money I got, it would never fix me internally. It might do something with the outside, but internally, money cannot fix my spirit, where I truly, really live. So those are two areas that I've drug with me through my active, drug-addicted life and into the rooms of recovery. And thank God, as a result of neither one of them did I ever get to a place where I got loaded. Because bottom line is that whatever you put your reliance and your dependence in, it's only a matter of time that you're going to buy into the lie when it doesn't go the way you want it to go, that your buddy can fix you. But if your foundation is strong, your step one foundation is strong, you will never fall below it. That's the first promise that was given to me by Brother Alton. If your foundation is strong, meaning the self-diagnosis of yourself, am I alcoholic? Am I addict? And that only means I have the allergy, the obsession, and spiritual separation from God, spiritual malady. If I'm well anchored in that, I'll never fall below that. I'll never get loaded again. That's been true for me, and it's true today. Because I don't have a perfect life, man. It's so much better than what it is, what it was. But still, I have my moments and I have my days. Let me retract that. No, it don't last for days no more. There's moments. I use what's been given to me by my spiritual teachers and angels and visits from spirit world. So hopefully that answered part of your question.
Thank you, Wendy, for the question, and Mike, thanks for the answer. Last question tonight. George, do you want to come in?
Hi, Danny. Thanks for being of service. Thank you guys for your brilliant shares. And this man share tonight was very inspiring. It really helped me a lot. It motivated me a lot. As one day I was sitting in rehab, there's one man during the GFT. He's been in that rehab for like 27 years, something like that. And he said, there's no recovery without God. And that really hit me because, I know in order for me to recover, I have to put God in the center of my life. So all the things that you say today really made a lot of sense to me. And even my old sponsor, when I went there, he told me, do you believe in God? Yeah, I told him, yes, I believe in Allah and I believe in God. So I have a lot of faith. Even during my active addiction, I always had that faith. And you just share that even when you were doing drugs and alcohol, God was speaking to you in some ways. When you tried to enter that store, he told you don't go, but you forced and you went in that store and you went to jail, to Rikers Island because of that. So I believe God speaks to us in some ways. So I just want to confirm this meeting. Do I have to ask a question or something? Or can I just share? Question.
Question.
Okay. One thing I will like to ask about is that how do you maintain your faith daily, and how do you handle situations that are very difficult for you? Do you keep the same faith in your higher power, or how do you cope even when you're at your lowest position?
Well, first I'd like to say to you, Assalamu alaikum, my brother. I grew up in an era where Islam was running rampant through Harlem, and Malcolm X would do his speeches in Harlem. So I'm well aware of the Islamic faith. What do? I've learned, I had to learn it, to turn to God. I had to make a decision as to the life I was living. Did it give me the quality of life that I desired for my life? And the answer was no. Even in recovery, even having been through the steps a few times, I was presented with the idea there's something more that you need to be doing. I was groomed to be a minister the first 10 years of my life in the religion that I grew up in. And at the age of 10, I walked away from it. I told Mama and I told Nanny, I said, man, I'm not doing this no more. I was the oddball. In the community that I grew up in Harlem, New York. And I went to concrete and pavement somewhere around the age of 10 or 11. But what's happened and what I've learned is that journey, those first 10 years, and then the journey after that in concrete and pavement, and my untreated drug addiction history were of pertinent importance to shape and mold me to be the man I am today and to be here with you, with my friends from across the pond and over here in the States. It took a few years, around 15 years of age, I went in recovery. I went back to church. I became licensed as a minister. A couple years after that, I became ordained. I am now a pastor. I have my own church. Now, there's times, the way I talk, you wouldn't think that. But my understanding is God allows you to be exactly who it is that you need to be in that moment. Stop judging, Mike. Start judging. So what I've done is I've been brought back 360 degrees to where I began from. And it has nurtured me, it has carried me, and it's enlarged my life beyond anything that I thought was imaginable for me. One of my deals, and it's a Mike D deal that I love in the book. It says, be quick to see where religious people are right Doesn't say any one particular religion. Says religious people. Because my understanding of that is that no matter what religion you're in, there's a connection to God in that religion. Have you connected to God in that religion? And has it provided the freedom for you that you need, finding another fellowship of like-minded people? I look for like-minded people. And as a result of that, I'm always steered back to God, no matter what happens or what's going on. Practice. I don't want to say makes purpose, but practice provides progress. And turning to God becomes a way of life. Any decision that I have to make today, I don't make it without first consulting God. Who would you have me be? Not what would you have me do, who would you have me be? That's about the chipping away of the old Mike and the recreation, the continued recreation of the new Mike, created in his image. So hopefully that helped you out, my brother, and answered your question. It's become habit, and being honest and transparent, 90 to 95% of the time, turning to God and consulting God for direction and movement in my life. And since acquiring that as a way of life, my life is like unbelievable. It's unbelievable.